All right, today is October 27th. This is a meeting of the Capital Budget Committee. Let's take a roll call.
Present Katie Dugan.
Present Kathy Forrest.
Present Chris Heisch.
Present Rob Casemeyer.
Present Susan Franklin. Okay, guys, so first on the agenda was reviewing the motions. And originally we were going to have Chris here, but I think Katie sent out some information earlier today that he's not going to be joining us, and they're not that complicated. Did everybody have a chance to read through the motions that were presented?
Yes.
Yeah, I did. Does anybody need them projected?
Yeah, we can do that.
Let me see.
The school roof one confused me because I thought we were going to put the source of the funds being the school stabilization.
Yeah, and
It's not
yeah,
in there.
That wasn't that clear, right?
yeah. So let me see if I can get them up. Share. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So this is and hopefully when I scroll it, it scrolls. You guys see it scrolling down. Okay,
Yes.
good. Okay. Here we go. So Article 4, this is capital improvements projects, majority vote. I think the only comment that I had was here it said to fund school appropriation. That felt vague to me because it's to fund diesel bus lease payment. So my only feedback, Michelle, to council is like, let's just match it, make it match the table, which says diesel bus lease payment.
Okay, that's fair enough.
Which is right down, yeah, the table right below is what you're.
Yeah.
I think that's a good comment.
Yeah. Again, generally these things should have like zero wiggle room. And I know just given Beth, the way she reads them, she literally reads them literally. So we should be
Yeah.
as
I
specific.
think they were following along with the way they said it for the water. I'm sorry, the sewer department. They
Yeah.
said the sewer department appropriation.
Yep.
So they're probably doing that, but if they want to continue to say it that way and then maybe in parentheses just state the name of it, would that be all right too, Katie, if they come back with a comment?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't see why they'd have a problem stating it directly.
Okay. And then I had the same comment as Kathy had on Article 5. This requires a 2/3 vote because it's a withdrawal from a stabilization fund. So those always are a 2/3 vote. That there was, it's in the informational summary. And our vote was, in our vote that I know that we did, we specifically referenced the use of the school stabilization fund. So I don't know if this is being driven based on MSBA language that we literally cannot change, or there is room for us to add to it. Again, I think the goal would be to keep with the MSBA language, but then somehow note for the community what the funding source is going to be, because borrowing is not what we're planning on doing.
Well, it says to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow said amount. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, clarifying where it's coming from is kind of important.
Yeah, so Katie, I think there was discussions about having a short-term, not a long-term borrowing, but a ban to get us through until the fund is completely flush with cash.
Yeah, there had been that conversation, and there was also the conversation that the expenses that were going to be accrued between June and July were going to basically match what was in the capital, the school stabilization fund. And by the time we got around to doing the fiscal 28 tax levy, we'd be able to pay the balance. There were sort of two strategies that were articulated. Again, I would like to know from council whether this is the language we have to go with because of the MSBA, and what that means is, I think when we get to town meeting, either select board or capital or whoever speaks on this needs to just emphasize, while there may be short-term borrowing, to your point, Michelle, that the goal in terms of the ultimate funding is the school stabilization fund, which has sufficient balances between fiscal 26 and fiscal 27 to cover the full cost.
Okay, I'll go back with legal counsel in the morning and see if we can add to it.
Is everybody comfortable with that? Because again, I know that there are MSBA requirements and you really can't monkey with it. So I'm
Yeah,
sensitive to that, but I'm also sensitive to getting the information out to the community.
Well, I think the way that you
Mhm.
stated it was quite good, Kathy. I thought that that was clear and effective. And it would seem to me that you could keep this, if this is you could keep the part that's required and just add an additional, section at the back, which would just clarify it.
Yeah, and generally the way that it works is Dan Evans, the town moderator, will refer to the motion specifically, but then a committee member, whether it's select board or capital, can get up and make clarifying comments. But we can't necessarily modify the motion unless legal counsel gives us the ability to do that ahead of time. So we'll find out.
yeah, I think it's worth asking the question because it's really kind of unclear.
Yeah. The other thing that I found interesting, and again, Michelle, this was just in the article itself, in the printed warrant, it refers to the grant. And it's explicitly refers to the grant amount being that 32.47% and a dollar number, the maximum of the 1.9 million. And then when you look at the motion is basically, it acknowledges the grant. It says the town acknowledges that the MSBA's grant program is a non-entitlement discretionary program based on need. And as determined by the MSBA, any project costs the town incurs in excess of the grant approved by and received by the MSBA shall be the sole responsibility of the town. So it doesn't reference any dollars, which I thought was strange.
Okay, so I'll ask legal counsel in the morning, why that is. And if this was in fact drafted from the MSBA themselves.
Okay. Yeah. That's all that I had. I think the only other question I had for the committee was two things. One, do we feel the need to post a meeting? We don't have to post ourselves as a capital budget committee meeting. We attend as individual community members posting our vote as a citizen. Sometimes we post when we think that there's a vote or a need potentially to meet before town meeting.
I thought we talked about that last week, Katie. We said we might as well post just in case something
Okay,
comes up. It's just good to have it.
okay. All right. So I'll post a meeting for 6:30.
Mhm.
And so when people see that come up, it's meant to cover us, not necessarily meant to everybody get to the auditorium or the gym at 6:30, because you'll be basically there by yourself. Unless somebody sends out an email. Michelle sends an email saying, Aruga, please come. And then in terms of speakers, Susan, are you game to sort of speak as necessary for capital?
Yeah, sure, I'm game, but I'm also, well, I welcome other people who may want to speak, but I'm perfectly capable of doing it as well.
I nominate you as chair.
I second the nomination.
Perfect.
Yeah, hopefully it's simple.
Yeah, I think yeah. The ones we have to talk about are relatively simple.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
All right, so if we're done on the motions, is Tanya in the waiting room or, okay,
She is.
invite her.
Hey.
Hello, and my apologies. You get to read the blank screen with my name on it, Tanya Bodell. But I have a low bandwidth, so I'm going to not play the video, but keep the audio on if that works for everybody.
Okay,
That's great.
So
Well
I
done.
am here to talk briefly about Article 11. And it's a great follow-on to the school roofs because they go hand in hand in a sense. And here to answer any questions you may have. The school committee and the advisory committee have both unanimously recommended approval of Article 11. What Article 11 asks the town to do, again, we do this almost every 5 years, it seems, is to give the town permission to lease the school property, including the school roofs, for purposes of installing solar energy arrays. This is something we've been trying to do since 2010, because it just makes sense from a monetary perspective as well as an environmental perspective. And we've been thwarted ever since because the school roofs were at an age where it did not make sense to logistically or financially install solar panels on the roofs until the roofs were replaced. Now that the Osgood School is up for roof replacement, Deer Hill is not far behind. It does make sense to get the town's permission to give us the flexibility to go to market and ask for offers from developers. The way we've done it in the past is there's no capital investment upfront by the town. The developers front the upfront investment for the solar energy arrays in exchange for the town entering into a long-term power purchase agreement for the solar energy from those panels. When we have done this in the past on the old landfill, we did not charge a lease fee, hoping to get the benefit of that through cost savings in the electricity price. And indeed we did. The old landfill solar energy array has generated more than $500,000 in savings to the town so far in the first 8 of its 20-year life. And we would hope to realize savings, perhaps not at that rich level, but along the same lines if we were to proceed with solar energy panels on the school property. We include Deer Hill in Article 11 to be able to allow for easements and access to that property, as well as potentially go into the market to ask for offers on the school roofs. So it's ready when the school roofs are ready, as well as perhaps carports on part of the parking lot, which could be part of a broader parking solution. So it gives us flexibility. It's an option, but not a commitment. We've been through this before. We have gone to the market before. And as you know, we do not have solar energy panels on the school roofs because it did not make sense. And similarly with the carports, there was non-agreement at the school committee 5 years ago to move forward with that. So we are asking the town again to approve the lease so that we can continue to be nimble and flexible and take advantage of the opportunities, especially as the Osgood and Deer Hill roofs are replaced.
Mhm.
And Tanya, when we do this approval, is Is the approval for in perpetuity, or is an approval kind of time bounded in the sense that if the town does not take up on this opportunity in the next, I don't know, 10 years, we'd have to revote it?
Yeah, so it gets stale, the approval gets stale, and the approval is needed for 30B procurement, which, sorry, which is the 30B procurement, which is tied to disposition of assets that the town owns. And
Yep.
so there's no hard and fast rule about how active an approval can be, but most certainly it seemed like 3 to 5 years out, it starts to get stale. And to be safe, it's better to go back to the town and ask for permission to lease again. So last time the town approved this was in 2020, 5 years ago.
Mhm.
And we feel it's important to get the reapproval of the town because things change, but also so do the opportunities. And we feel like we're on the cusp of some pretty critical opportunities given the replacement of the school roofs.
So-
And
so you're saying-
legislation
you're saying that
related
this
to the
is-
federal incentives.
So you're saying that this approval has a lifespan, but also once we actually act and have a power generation partner and solar panels in place, this one's only for 25 years for that program?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
So this article is asking to approve our ability to go out and solicit for a program on particular buildings and places around town. And then within the article, the 25 years is with respect to once the program's in place, that program is a 25-year program?
Yeah, it'd be a 25-year power purchase agreement, up to a 25-year power purchase agreement.
Okay.
So, or up to a 25-year lease of the property. So in fact, we may enter into a 30 or 35-year agreement, but the lease would only run for up
I see.
years.
Gotcha.
So there'd have to be we tie the term of the power purchase agreement to the, we tie the approval of the power purchase agreement to the term of the lease.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay. And when you said that this was last approved in 2020, was that last approved for the school discussion? Because I think the old landfill was like mid-teens, right?
Yes, so for 2020's approval, it was for the school properties, including the high school, middle school. This is just for Deer Hill and Osgood, given the roof replacement timing.
Okay. And just to step back for the committee, Tanya had reached out, and I had seen her present at school committee where they gave their approval. She had reached out and this is really informational discussion for our committee because there isn't a required vote on this. Leading up to special town meeting, it's something that we as capital budget members should be aware of. So,
Yeah.
it was more informational so that nobody was taken aback when there were discussions of capital because there isn't a capital outlay associated with this now. And in the future, to Tanya's point, it doesn't sound like there's going to be a capital outlay then, depending on how it gets negotiated.
Yeah, I understand all that. I guess my only question would probably be directed more at Michelle, in that when we talked about the Osgood roof and we talked about the rubber portion, not, if you put anything in place on that roof, you would have to put the footings in before you put the rubber down. So
So
I guess
I
the
think
question would be,
that's what the
we need
project manager
coordination.
was,
What's
that's what
that?
the project manager was stating.
Mhm.
However, it's done all the time after the fact. And if we were to put solar on before the roof was done, they would likely have to replace the roof in the process. So it's often done after the roof. But of course, I don't think that the project managers of that specific project are gonna lead you down the path of, let's put solar on prior to doing the roof to get the project forward.
Okay. I was under the impression that the spots on the roof that were wet were due to punctures in the membrane. But you're saying that they can do it in a way where it will be watertight.
Yep, they do it all the time.
Okay.
And actually they're responsible for it once they put the solar on, so,
All right, that's really the only sort of capital operational question I had. Does anyone else have anything? All right,
No, I think the schools could use some help with their utilities. I know that that's been
Yeah.
an area where they've been, it's such a fixed expense. It's actually where they are under budgeted this year, but I think to the tune of $160,000. So anything to the good here in
Yeah.
terms of creating that opportunity going forward, I think is a good thing.
mhm. Well, I don't think anyone else has any other questions. So we just thank you for your effort and in pulling all this together and your time tonight, giving us a presentation.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your questions and your interest.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you.
Michelle, you are up.
sure.
Town hall.
So we want to take a walk down Town Hall renovation lane. So I can tell you that things are moving along nicely. We've checked off some items on the list. I'm not sure if everyone has the original Town Hall renovation budget list, which has each line item listed.
Let me see if I can
Um,
bring it up.
Okay.
Oops, wrong folder.
Oh, I have it right here. Do you want me just to share?
Yeah, if you've got it,
Okay.
I'm digging. Actually, I think I got it. Here, I'll share it so that you can focus instead of getting your screen distracted. All right, there you go.
Perfect. Okay. So, I'm going to tell you, so we started a town hall working group. This is where this estimate kind of originated from, with a lot of help from Mark Cameron. We were able to go by the original estimates received and bid packages received and narrow it down to these specific items that were absolutely necessary to have a functioning, I guess, renovated town hall. I can tell you so far, the work that has been done is if we've gone out to bid on the fire suppression and alarm systems. The water line was just completed this week, and the fire suppression bids came in under budget, and that work has also started this week. The cost of the water line and the fire suppression bids came in $62,000 under the original appropriation for that line item of $400,000. So that's a nice story. The chimney needed repointing. That was also completed last week. That is not a line item that was in this packet, but this was something that was held over from the roof project. And that was that original appropriation from the roof project that we deducted the $39,000 to fix the chimney.
The 163,000, what and change.
Exactly.
You deducted this 39,000 from?
Yep, 39,460.
Okay.
As far as next steps, so we have an RFQ on the street right now for designer services. In this designer services, we have a do not exceed of $100,000. And this designer will be hired for space planning. It will help us with the window specifications. It'll help us also with the ADA access points, as well as adding additional exterior doors if needed, as well as that porch that we've been talking about. So that RFQ is on the street. It is due on 11/12, and we will have the qualifications. We'll put together a small committee to review the qualifications. And once again, it's a not to exceed $100,000. As soon as we have a designer on board, we'll move forward and procure the windows. That designer will help us write window specs. John Hallen, our building commissioner, has worked with Hingham Lumber to come up with windows and window alternatives. We will run those by the designer to see if those meet the specifications for a commercial building. If so, we'll move forward with a good, better, best option for the windows for town hall.
I thought there was a discussion about using a roadmap, at least on the historical side, from what the Second Congregational did. Is that part of that discussion?
It
Okay.
is, it
Okay.
is. So we received that information from Phil Lair. They had a Pella representative out to help design the historical windows in the front of the church. We have those specifications as well. So we're going to incorporate those into the design.
Okay.
Um,
Did
And the
did you get
$200,000
them- Did you get them early enough for Hallen to look at in his work?
it's incorporated in John's work, yes.
Yeah, good. That's good
Yep.
then.
Susan, the budget for Windows is 200,000. I thought I had heard mentioned that there was some concern that that might be a little bit light. But do we have any sense of how light it might be, or we're still figuring that out?
We're still figuring that out. It all depends on what option we go with. Like I said, we may have the good, better, best option out there. Depending on, what the community and the committee feels, which window we should move forward with. We'll determine the price tag.
Okay.
So Michelle, you're saying in your bid, you're gonna ask the bidders to provide different levels of, different specs for the.
That was
windows?
the intent as we spoke to the committee. If something changes, I'll let you know, but as of now, that's what we're gonna ask the designer to write the spec as.
Okay.
Once the window specs are procured, we're gonna move forward, likely in parallel with the HVAC bidding process. We just received the HVAC designs. However, we can't move forward with the HVAC design until the windows are installed, because we want to gain that energy efficiency, the energy efficiency dollars from National Grid. And in order to do that, the envelope has to be secure prior to installing your HVAC system. So we're going to take a look at the HVAC specifications as soon as the designer's on. We're going to, work with them with the HVAC specifications. And like I said, put it out in parallel with the windows, because we do believe that we can at least secure a portion of the building with the new windows, which may be the historic portion first, and then start on the HVAC as well. So that is, it's kind of.
And if I remember correctly, on the HVAC design, that was that 90,000 that the select board actually approved. I forget where the funding source was, but that money was
That's
approved
correct.
separately. Okay.
That is correct. Yep. So when we talk about the HVAC design, and we talk about the HVAC installation, then we need to talk about, what happens with the town hall employees. Are we going to ask them to split the bid and start working on the historic portion before they start on the annex portion? Therefore, the employees can move over to one side and not have to relocate. These are the conversations that are happening within the working group. There's been no definitive plans as to how we're going to work this yet. Once again, having the designer on board is really critical to the process at this point, because they're going to help us walk this entire project moving forward as far as steps to finish the design and renovation of the building.
And does having 135 King Street afford us some flexibility in terms of that employee movement?
It does. It just depends on how that project progresses. Because what we don't want to do is we don't want to impede another project either. So we
Yep.
want to make sure we're mindful that we're working together in this process.
Yeah.
The last piece that I have information on is the hazmat portion. Right now, we've solicited 3 quotes. We only have 2 quotes back for that hazmat abatement. Currently, based on the 2 quotes, the lowest quote is hovering somewhere around $7,000, which is far less than the $50,000 allocated to that line item. So even as we speak about the windows maybe going over budget in their line item, I think there'll be cost savings in other line items to help offset that cost.
Okay.
So, Michelle, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but based on the few items that you updated us on, where does that put us on a calendar timeline? To
So
get through to the hazmat?
Yep,
Oh,
so
sorry.
as of right now through hazmat, to start the projects, we're looking probably March timeframe to begin the window project. April for HVAC. We don't have a definite time frame on the completion of the HVAC system, but we're saying anywhere from 10 to 12 months to complete that entire project. And
Okay.
while that's going on, while we're working with the HVAC system, our facilities team will also be working to complete the flooring project, the ceiling tiles and things of that nature. So there'll be a lot going on at the same time. So we're hoping the entire project starting probably March, April of 2026. About 12 months after that, we should have substantial completion of a lot of these items.
Okay, thank you.
So spring of 2027 is substantially complete, is what we're looking at.
That's what we're looking at.
I guess the only question I had for you was on the designer services of 100,000. Is that's down in this out of that 383 contingency? Okay,
That's correct. That's
Okay.
correct.
gotcha. Awesome. Now this is helpful just to kind of put the 6 projects that are like in the process or being completed and what the roadmap looks like.
Well, the big thing here, it seems like what you're saying is that within a month or so, we ought to have a very good idea of how accurate this estimate is relative to, what's actually coming in.
Mhm. Yeah, with the HVAC being the biggest line item.
Yeah.
Right.
So we
Yeah.
won't have an idea on HVAC until probably January. Those bids won't come back
Oh.
until January, maybe beginning of February.
Windows we'll have next month.
Right.
But if the windows are going to be if the HVAC and windows interact, can you do that with that? I guess you can, I suppose, with design specs and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Yep,
so
so we're
Michelle-
hoping to bid them around the same time. And that will give us a better picture, as you stated, because the $1.5 million is the largest number of all of these.
Yes.
So Michelle, back to the relationship between Windows and HVAC.
Mhm.
You're saying that the windows have to precede the HVAC because we need to get the envelope completed in order to get the rebates from National Grid. That's really.
That's
the primary
correct.
driver. But
Mhm.
it's not like there was any other reason.
No, there's no other reason. It's just,
You could do them together if you weren't going after a rebate.
that's correct, but we're trying to maximize every dollar, so.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a rebate grant requirement to move in that order versus a one that's like required by facilities or
Correct.
project manager. Okay.
okay, good to
Yeah.
know. All right. Anyone else have any comments or questions?
No, this was great. Thank you.
All right, yeah, thanks for the update, Michelle.
Yeah, appreciate that. And Michelle, as we go through this, and there's sort of, just give a holler if you think that there's a update. Obviously, once we crest into the new year, there'll obviously be a bunch of different updates, but if there's something that comes up, just holler and we'll throw it on the agenda. Because I think it would be nice if we could show that this project is running to budget as planned to the community as kind of a way to showcase the fact that we can do it. When we're in actual execution mode, we are able to execute to a budget. There are things where we don't necessarily control the budget in terms of where contractor bids are going to come in, or during the design phase when we're trying to match programming and square footage. But like at this phase, like things are locked. So I think it'd be helpful.
Sure.
Yeah, and in terms of communicating to the public, you know, we've been talking about how to communicate the public safety project to the public, and maybe there's a way. Ralph had that PDF of I forget which town that was. Does anybody remember which town that was? It did a really nice job of sort of showing how the project was unfolding. You know, was unfolding.
Sutton, I think, was the one that he liked. That was the one he circulated. Yeah.
Maybe we should put that out in the web space as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a little
Maybe having some
infographic here of
format
like
helps the
wins.
viewer, you know, so they don't have to try to figure out our different ways of our different perspectives on things. We just have sort of a standard way that we present that type of data.
Yeah.
Okay, Kathy.
Yes, so the Public Safety Building Working Group met today, this morning actually. We continued the discussion around communications and a communication plan. And Glenn is actually going to be at the select board tomorrow night to give them an update. And we are working towards an introductory communication to hand out at the town meeting. We don't know if we'll get something agreed and we'll have it ready by then, but that's what we're hoping to do. In addition, we then talked about how we go about figuring out what the options are. So the next meeting, which is the November 6th at 6 p.m., we're going to brainstorm all the various kind of scoping options that there are, and come up with a big list so that we can then kind of prioritize that and send that to the designers and the project manager to try to get some costings associated with those. So as you can imagine, things like the fire annex would be one, site work would probably be another. So there are a couple of things that we'll talk through. And it seemed like a consensus that we didn't think, and Michelle, correct me if I'm wrong, we didn't think that any of this would be ready for the May annual town meeting now. It sounded like the thought was it would be better to have a special town meeting late summer. So that was a little bit of a change from the last meeting.
Was that driven based on just like when you guys thought through it was going to take us X months to do brainstorming, or it just felt, or did it just generally feel like a rush to sort of when you go to the annual town meeting May and back it up, like you basically have to be ready by, frankly, February? Like,
Yeah, I think, and Kathy, I'm sorry to jump in here, but I think a lot of it was, you know, the working group really wants to communicate effectively out to the community, and they don't want that communication to be rushed. They want to make sure everyone has time to really absorb the message, and then we can move forward.
Yep.
Aren't this kind of this level of discussion done in the main town meeting and not in the special town meetings? So wouldn't it therefore skip a year rather than 6 months, just for the planning purposes?
Yeah, so Rob, sometimes when you have large standalone projects, especially of this magnitude, it's best to focus just a special town meeting around this one article question.
When have we done that in the past? Just out of curiosity.
So we had serious discussions on the zoning bylaw working group about doing exactly that, was because in part, when you mix it into annual town meeting, it can become a very long, like you risk running into a 2-day annual town meeting conversation.
Yes.
Because you cross over midnight, I know Duxbury does it on a regular basis. They love to have like 2 or 3 day like annual town meetings. We're basically a one evening kind of crowd. And so when we were discussing zoning in particular, like there was conversation around, do we need to go to a special format? So it is something that I know at least other town committees have considered, because it allows the space to have the conversation versus tacking it on at, 10 o'clock on a regular annual town meeting. So can't answer directly your question as to whether we've done it in recent past. I mean, God's truth is that we haven't actually tackled a major project.
Right.
So. Yeah. I also feel like there's an urgency to sort of close out this conversation in the community in a sense that we have other capital priorities that are going to increasingly get on the radar screen as it relates to schools and other things. So in some ways, I appreciate the fact that you're not rushing it, but I also appreciate you closing out the conversation, because I think if you do flip into, frankly, 2027 and fiscal 28 conversations, you've got schools clearly in the mix at that point. And, you know, I'm not sure what else, but there's that to me, it's creating the space, but not letting it bleed into too much in terms of future timeline.
Yeah, I think it will be helpful for the working group to see the output of kind of the long range planning committee and the plan there. Because I think that will drive that home. There already was discussions about needing to communicate the town how the public safety building lands in terms of all the other priorities as well. So the working group is well aware that there are other things coming down the pike.
Yes, and we're meeting on Thursday to continue our work on that effort.
Okay.
Well, thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
Thanks for all the work on this. I know this is going to be a lift. With Glenn as your chair, he's going to give assignments and ask you to turn in your homework at the next meeting. So I think that's a good thing.
Oh yes, he's already doing that.
So the one thing we didn't discuss on that point was the peer analysis, and is that still something that you guys are working towards, or?
So it's not something that we've actually spoken about with this working group. I think as our conversations progress and when we bring in the designer and the OPM, I think those conversations will pick back up again. I think, but for right now, I think we have a little pause.
I bring that up because peer analysis is a section in the long-term, planning document. And we started to talk about towns amongst ourselves that we thought we would look at, but then I know this committee has brought forth some other suggestions. So I guess I'll just speak with them about the other suggestions that we brought forth with respect to the public safety building specifically, and see if we cover them in our document.
Okay.
So
and I think the benchmarking will be important for the public safety working group to communicate out. As we come up with different options, it'll just be something to compare things to. I think it'll be really imperative that we have that information.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'm comfortable with pausing it and syncing it up with the timeline that the working group has, but I can't underscore enough the need to sort of incorporate that and be able to present that to the community. Like I was very excited to see the peer analysis work, and so as long as it's part of the longer term work, I'm comfortable. But I was still operating under it was going to be ready at the end of the month. So it sounds like that's not what's going to happen. That's okay. But I do think there's value in that analysis.
So do we have a date when we think the analysis will be started or completed?
So what we did is,
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Sorry, Michelle.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, it's all right. I thought you were directing a question at me.
Yeah, I didn't know who you were directing it either.
Either one, whoever has the answer.
All right,
I'm
Susan.
still
Well, I don't have an
operating off of
answer.
the
I
select
can
board.
just tell you that it's a section in the existing report, and we lightly talked about it while we were going over it, and maybe through a couple other towns out there. But our session coming up on Thursday is for everybody we got our homework too, and for everybody to bring homework back, and we'll start to make updates in those sections, and then I'm sure the long-term planning group will begin working on the peer analysis after that.
And again, I was just operating off of the fact that the select board had directed the peer analysis to be done. And so that's where I was at, that last I had heard that select board had directed, we were doing it, it was going to be available on the 29th. So if that's
Mhm.
changed in terms of that direction, that's fine. I just didn't know.
I think it would be good too to know what we're actually going to be measuring. What are the metrics that we're looking at? Just so we can be sure that they're metrics that we'll be able to use.
Okay.
Right. I know that Ellen mentioned in the meeting that there will be some parity between the two. Obviously, we're working independently on the long-term planning document, but a lot of it is impacted by what's going on currently in projects that are underway. So. And I think also that getting that document done like quickly, like, like drink a lot of coffee and stay up all night is not a likely thing that's going to happen. As we went through the document the first time, we realized there's a lot of work to be done.
Yeah. No, it's a big undertaking to update that document, in particular because we've had a town finance director who is also our town manager, but we haven't had somebody like a Don Pyatt who's able to produce a report, whose day job it is to produce a report like the budget report, which is where a lot of those facts and figures came out of when the long range planning group did it. I think we've got some resources, but to your point, Susan, a lot of the information is not as readily available as it was a couple of years ago when that budget book was being produced on an annual basis.
Mhm, mhm.
So.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. So
All right.
I'll let you know what I'll update you what we talk about at the next session.
Okay.
All right, so next are repurposed articles.
Yeah.
Did you want to share your screen again, Katie, on that one?
Yeah, I'll share my screen. So this is, I'm going to share this briefly because this is sort of the source document. So I don't know, so I went through this document and I sort of culled it down to my questions. So tonight's goal is just to orient everybody on the committee to like what this document tells us. And then we can go through the ones that I handpicked. Susan, maybe you've got some others that I missed, Kathy, Rob, Chris. Once we identify those appropriations, those historical appropriations off this list that we would like some more information on, specifically whether the project's complete, and the funds can come back to capital stabilization. That's where Michelle does her magic and goes out to each of the town departments and applies a little friendly pressure to say, why is this appropriation still open? What are you holding it open for? If there's no operational need to have the appropriation any longer, then we can sort of officially put it on our list. But we're sort of in the information gathering stage, which it goes pretty quickly from like the ones that we identify to Michelle being able to say, yep, that's one that we can count on, or nope, there's a reason why it's still being held open. So this document itself, again, just as an example, the first one, this was actually an appropriation from, looks like annual town meeting 2012. So we're now talking 13 years ago. And it was the original appropriation, and again, was for 158,000. There's POs and encumbrances of 138,000. And there's an open balance of 20,200. So my question is, 13 years later, can we release that $20,208 back? So that's sort of the exercise that you go through with this document. Each of these.
Not to interrupt you, Katie, but I felt like last year, Michelle kind of just went through every one of the articles. Is this a preference that we do it this way differently than last year?
So, Michelle, asked for us to highlight them and
Oh,
she's gonna
okay.
do her own work, but like, the question was like, if you guys have specific things that hop off the page, and Michelle will do work, and I don't mean to put words in your mouth, Michelle, but like, I had gone through this and I said I had questions. She said, tell me what your questions are. So that was sort of where we
Mhm.
started, and obviously Michelle can scrub it more.
Okay.
But tonight, Michelle is not ready to go through each of these and sort of give out point counterpoint as to why they're all.
Yeah, yeah,
I was,
I figured that much.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So that's the document. I don't know if anybody else has had a chance to go through it or knew what to do in terms of like looking at repurposed articles.
Well, again, I mean, the large line items always jump out, and you know, knowing whether this goes a little bit to what we've talked about in the past, Michelle, about getting sort of an update on things that we funded and where they are. Like I'm looking at IT and I see data center upgrades from May of 2023, and we've only spent 7,000 of the $101,000, and so it sort of makes me wonder what's going on with this project. So that's kind of how I look at it. I look at the big items first, or I look at the dates, or I look at ones that, for example, police and fire who have projects that recycle. You know, is there anything on here that I see where we didn't spend the money?
Yeah,
I
so
don't
I
expect
just
we, but-
just looking real quickly, Susan, at this list, I can look at CEA, for instance, right? And we can see van 2 replacement, that can be a turn back. The HVAC system, all we're paying out of that right now, I believe, is electrical and retainage, so I'm willing to bet about $100,000 comes back to capital. I don't have that final amount, but
Mhm.
somewhere
That's-
near there. The
Yeah.
transport vehicle, because we got more for our trade-in than anticipated, that entire amount will be coming back to you.
Mhm.
So those are 3 that I'm familiar with.
Right.
As far as fire, I do believe the turnout gear was funded through free cash because of the time frame. So I believe that will also be coming back to you. If you go up a little further to the selectman town manager and you see the 521 CMR assessment,
Mhm.
I think we thought the cost of that would be a lot higher. The grant allocated us a certain amount of money and we had to match it. I do believe that $9,400 will come back to you
Mhm.
because we've spent all that we needed to get the documents completed. Fire suppression and alarms. So that right there was simply for a study at the time, I believe. So
Yep.
I anticipate that's coming back to you. When I look down, annual road paving, not sure why that's still outstanding. That should have been a whole big PO. Road
Yeah. That's what that was a different one where it was like there was a PO encumbrance that's been sitting out there since.
Yeah, I'll have to look into that. Because oftentimes, when there's a new admin coming in, one going out, they encumber the same PO. So let's see if we can
Mhm.
liquidate that. And that would be a turn back.
Is that what
The
beach-
Beechwood courts, that
Oh.
$12,000 has been allocated, so I'm sorry, but you're not gonna get that back.
Okay.
And the IT portion, I can't answer any of those questions. I would have to work with Ron. As far as schools,
Sometimes IT takes a little while because it takes time to roll out these installations and
yeah,
things. But that
Yeah.
one being from 2023 seems to stick out a little bit.
yeah, and Ron will have a good idea of what can be turned back almost immediately.
Mhm.
And as far as schools, so we know the electric school bus lease, we know that money's coming back to you. The air handlers,
This was the one that last year you told us that they had rescoped they had gone out to bid several times, failed because they couldn't do both the Deer Hill and the high school. And they had rescoped it, so they were going to complete the Deer Hill project and do one of the two systems at the high school. But I didn't know whether these projects were in motion or they had gone out to bid again and we'd failed.
Nope, so they went out to bid again. We were successful in our bidding this time. I don't have the actual bid in front of me, but it did come in less than the 479, so there'll be some sort of turn back there.
Is the work been completed?
We just went back out to bid on it.
Okay.
Yeah. The Deer Hill furniture replacement, I thought that was well underway. I'll have to check with Sue Owen on that.
And I also know that the Education Foundation funded furniture replacement as well.
Okay.
I don't know if it was the same exact scope, but I know that they did.
The thing that was upsetting to me about this one, Michelle, was, we have considered furniture replacement kind of a reoccurring need at the school. And so there was the plan to do Deer Hill, and then we've begun to do conference rooms at the middle high school. And so, it could be just an accounting thing. Or but I want to make sure that the money is being spent, because we've gone out of our way to come up with $35,000 a year for a number of years in order to sort of keep a cycle going with that furniture replacement. So I just want to make sure that the program is actually doing what it's intended to do.
Yes, I will check with the schools in the morning.
And I'm not saying I'm gonna put this one on you, Michelle. Maybe we should put it on ourselves, but Katie, we should probably go through last year. I know that a couple of our approvals were based on getting grant monies back, or is that something you keep track of, Michelle?
We do keep track of that.
So is there any grant monies that will be coming back into the Capital Stabilization Fund?
I'm not aware of any at the moment. But once again, from last year, the grant cycle hasn't been completed yet. We applied for grants probably last February that still haven't been awarded. So,
Okay, all right. Just want to stay on top of it.
yep, sure.
Anyone
Yeah.
else have any specific ones that they were interested in that Michelle didn't speak about? No.
There was one thing I noticed about the report, and Michelle confirmed it. So there are, as you guys know, when we did this process last year, we identified like $540,000 in turnbacks. The accounting is happening for those this week. So when you look at this report, there are items in here that in the report out of the general ledger that haven't been processed. For example, we had said that the AC heater split for the middle school health clinic was $18,703. That was specifically called out in the annual town meeting motion to be repurposed and used as part of our funding. They just haven't done the accounting to match it. So when we see the report the next time, that the motion information from May is going to clear out, and it'll be a little bit cleaner picture of like what's remaining. But even of what's remaining, I still think that there's opportunity, as
Yes.
kind of
okay,
see.
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I did just look up the bid tabulations for the air handlers, and it looks like it came in at about $145,000, so significantly less than the 479. Once again, that's
Oh.
for one school. But
Yeah.
Okay.
I would love when you go back to them, because again, they had failed several times and it was more expensive, so they had sort of shrunk the project scope. I just want, if they're headed in the other direction of like expanding this project scope again, because they're figuring out that they can get more, it'd be good for us to sort of understand which is sometimes the reason people don't want to give up the appropriation because they'll want to do the other part of the middle high school
Sure,
if they
I'll
can.
find out.
Will the school turnbacks go to the school stabilization fund or the capital stabilization fund?
We'll go back to
They-
capital.
Go back to
Go back to
capital because they
capital.
were made from capital.
Yeah, they go back to where they came from. So in the case of some of them, I think I saw one going through the report that I knew for sure was like out of the school stabilization. If there was a turn back, it would go back to school stabilization.
Yeah, and there's one for roads and sidewalks in there too.
Yeah,
Go back
and
to
that,
roads and sidewalks.
exactly. So you kind of have to have a little bit of history when you're looking at the report, but the majority of this is capital stabilization because we really haven't had much come out of roads and sidewalks or school to date. It's been like 4 or 5 projects.
Yeah,
And we wouldn't want to propose that those amounts that come back from school, for instance, come back to capital stabilization fund, but then get allocated to the school stabilization fund. I'm just thinking with all of the roof stuff, that there's not much. It might be nice for the schools to get back their underages or the things they've saved money on.
I think every department kind of feels that way. So then you've got IT saying, if I turn it back, I want it to go towards an IT project. And the point of view is that it goes back to at least the point of view to date, we can have a discussion about it, is the turn back goes legally back to the fund from which it was made.
Mhm.
And then, if it's capital stabilization, we can obviously use it against any town department. And I think the thought process in the past has been year to year, we don't know what the competing priorities are. So for schools to come back and say, like, we had an underage in our Deer Hill furniture, we now want to apply that to
Yeah.
more furniture. It would impede our ability to sort of look holistically at all of the competing needs of the town.
So we are still allocating school projects to the capital stabilization fund?
yes,
Okay.
Well, what's going to the school stabilization fund for the next 2 years is only Joseph Osgood roof, because there's no more money to do anything else.
So if they have other needs, they'll come to the capital
Yes.
stabilization fund.
right. Mhm.
And
Okay.
if you look at what historically we've done out of capital stabilization,
I just thought because the school stabilization fund was set up, I was under the impression that all the school stuff had to go through that, but it doesn't.
no, actually, it was set up to handle major projects.
Larger project.
So those
Okay.
like inconvenient, $2 to $7 million projects that we can't handle out of general stabilization. So it was, when they set it up, it was like articulated Joseph Osgood roof, Deer Hill up next. Whatever the du jour was going to be after that. And everything else would run through capital stabilization. So that was sort of the
Yeah.
view.
Thank you.
And if you look at the historical, it's been, we have 2 million in total. And if you look at what the schools have gotten out of the capital stabilization fund, it ranges from, call it 400 to 500,000 out of that 2 million. So it's about 30% of the capital stabilization that has gone back to schools, and then the rest of the departments split the other 70%, with the next biggest spender probably being DPW, I think. Historically, there's some big ticket items that come out of DPW, and then you've got some
Facilities
biggies
is
coming
a
out of
big
fire.
Yeah, well, we don't have to labor over this. We, obviously, we try to help you as much as we can, Michelle, but in the end, we don't have the, we can't ask the question, so. And I think it's important that we don't do this fishing exercise just to be happy that we put money in our capital stabilization fund, but but because it gives us the opportunity to put that money back to work for the town.
Yeah.
Okay,
So I'll put this on the agenda for our November 10th meeting, and Michelle will have sort of asked and answered a bunch of the questions, and she can come back with sort of hopefully the list of things that's going to be realistic in terms of turnbacks. And then we can perhaps look at the cleaned up report after all of the accounting for 25 is done, so that we know exactly what free versus was just not cleaned up from the last set of months.
all right, then let's move on to the liaisons. Can knock off the obvious ones, which is police and fire. We know Kathy is going to be there, and Katie, you've expressed that schools is probably going to be under you.
I'd like to continue it for continuity purposes, and I'd love to have somebody join me as a co-pilot on that one.
Chris, have you given any thought to what you might be interested in?
Well, I thought, Susan, that you and I were on police and fire.
Well, we were last year, but that was before they
Well,
were
these are new assignments.
working on the big public safety project. So I would imagine that Kathy definitely would be involved in that process, but the ambulance and other gear and things like that do not fall under the public safety project. So we would put another person on police and fire.
Okay, I'd be happy to volunteer for that.
Okay.
Awesome. So we've got on police and fire, we've got Kathy and Chris.
Yep.
Um,
So do you mind if we talk about IT next? So, Rob,
Yeah.
I don't know, I know Ralph has very good skills in the IT area. Where would you say your skills are in IT or outside of that? Understanding the actual gear, which is very helpful when they're talking to you.
I don't have a strong background in IT.
Okay,
I'm a relatively quick learner, though.
Okay, I don't have much background in IT and I'm not a quick learner.
I have a small background in IT.
yeah, me too. Small. Okay,
Is Ralph still going to be on IT?
yes, Ralph will still be on IT.
yeah. So
I'm happy to join him on IT.
So on some of these, Katie, in the
Yep.
past, we really haven't had a water, sewer, road, sidewalk specifically.
oh, roads and sidewalks specifically.
We really haven't had somebody on roads and sidewalks or water and sewer as a liaison because most of their projects are paid for out of their own funds. So we haven't really had a liaison in those areas.
Yeah, I just went back to last year. We had Corey was on water and sewer last year.
I mean, we can put a person on it. But I'm just saying that most of
Yeah.
that process is run by, like, roads and sidewalks has a whole committee, and then
Yeah.
they come to us pretty well prepared.
Yeah, it's
We're
more
trying
just
to knock these down.
yeah. I'm fine with not doing roads and sidewalks and water and sewer. I was just copying what we did last year.
Yeah.
So if we wanna cut those two and just rely on Michelle I think roads and sidewalks honestly is gonna come up through DPW anyway, cause it's Brian Joyce. So I think that's an easy one to cross off, and then Michelle on water and sewer.
So I think on water and sewer, it would be beneficial to have a liaison,
Okay.
just because there's a lot of planning within the 10-year capital plan and what's going to happen in the future there. And I think it might be helpful to have someone
More
work with them.
from the perspective that there's going to be large expenses coming out of there.
Mhm.
Okay.
Well, I can be a part of that.
Okay. That would be great, Rob.
Well, I can join Ralph on IT. I mean, I know enough to be dangerous.
I think Kathy raised her hand.
But it
Oh,
doesn't
Kathy, you
matter.
raised your hand?
You can go on IT, Susan, it's fine.
Okay.
All right. I'm just trying to keep a tally. So Ralph and Susan on IT, we're canceling roads and sidewalks. We'll get that from Brian, Joyce, and Rob is going to do water and sewer. Okay.
I might join Rob on that, just to Michelle's point, since I'm on the long-term planning committee. It might be useful for me to listen to those conversations.
Okay.
Great.
Okay, so DPW, facilities, elder affairs, library.
I'll
Or
do
Robert.
facilities. I'm happy to do that. Michelle, is that one that's going to need 2 people this year, or does it feel like it's, I mean, if it's like it was last year and it was,
I think it's a light
Robert.
lift this year only because they're working so diligently on the town hall project. I think it's a light lift this year, so one probably would be sufficient.
okay.
Okay, so we need somebody to join Katie on schools as well. So probably one person on facilities. Did Ralph has traditionally done DPW, but he didn't tell me that he was gonna do that, but we could, how about we pencil him in and I'll ask him.
On DPW. Yeah. Anybody else want to talk F-350s? I'm happy to join Ralph on
Okay,
DPW.
Katie, I thought you were on facilities
Oh, I'm on facilities. You're right. Sorry.
and you're on schools.
Yeah.
So let's, Kathy, which one, what appeals to you here other than police and fire? So some of them are like Michelle said, light lifts, like the library may have like one item. I'm guessing if they even have one. I know Harbor has one.
Do you want to give me library and elder affairs?
Okay.
Yeah.
And at Elder Affairs, they do have a new head there, so that's good that we're gonna have somebody speaking with them. Town, I assume is town hall.
Yeah, Michelle, is there anything else coming besides town hall? I mean, it's already done.
No, I don't believe so.
So you still think just communicating through updates from the working group should be sufficient on that one? Yes? Okay. So that's Harbor and Rec. I've done Rec in the past. I'm happy to continue to do it. And Harbor, we know has only one item, is that correct?
That's correct.
Anybody feeling an affinity to Harbor?
I guess
Is there somebody who doesn't have a lot of committees? Can you count and see who's?
I think
Yeah,
I
I'd
have
be-
one committee,
I'm sorry.
And
so I
Katie-
could take another one, whether it's DPW or whether it's Harbor.
do you have
Okay.
any, if you know about the harbor, it's helpful, like if you're a sailor, for sure.
I've got a boat, yeah.
Okay, I don't. So Rob, I nominate you for this.
Okay, I'll hold you
I'm
underwater.
gonna nominate you for our committee comedian. All right, so I think that covered everybody, right? All of the departments now with Ralph Councilman and DPW.
So who's going to be the second with Ralph on DPW?
You don't have a
Chris?
second.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
Chris.
And schools, Katie, did you have a second person?
I do not have a second.
Do you want a second? Or need a
Uh,
second?
I don't need a second. I think it's often helpful to have a counterpoint on the schools. It's not a
If I
work.
can let go of rec, I can join you in schools, but someone
I
has to
mean,
pick up rec.
rec doesn't really need a liaison. They very rarely have any asks. I think the purpose of a liaison for recreation at this point would be to kind of draw some things out of them, to have them start planning for the future versus
So
the
you're
actual
talking about
capital
maybe
items.
a short phone call to ask them to continue to work on their long-term plan and then provide, so in a way, you're already asking on that, right?
Yes.
So we could leave that one sort of fallow right now based on what they come back with, and if they come back with something significant on the long-term plan, then assign a person to talk to them. How's that?
That
Feel
works,
good about that? All right, Katie,
right? You can ride co-pilot with me.
we'll co-pilot schools review.
Okay.
All right, perfect. All right, moving on to committee member updates. I don't have anything specifically. Does anyone else have something that we haven't discussed that they want to talk about?
I mean, I think the only thing that I want to just throw out into the ethos is this concept of putting together a more formal capital stabilization policy in terms of our funding sources. We've had some good funding the last couple of years, and we've had a commitment by the select board to increase it by 2.5%. But I do know that other towns take a slightly different approach in terms of like what the commitment looks like. And it's in a funding policy, it's in a policy, it's a standalone policy around capital. And it can look like a percentage of the tax levy, or it can look like a percentage of the tax levy plus free cash flow. But there are ways to make it a more formal commitment. And the only reason I raise this is that I'm not uncomfortable with the 2.5 million and that increasing at 2.5%. I think that will give us enough capability to handle what the town departments need without getting behind. Where I do get worried is our ability to create space to tackle projects that are in that $3 to $5 million range, like another town hall. And the example that comes to mind is 62 Elm Street. If we were going to commit to do 62 Elm Street, and that's going to be a $4 million project, and it's already been thrown out by the select board that would come out of capital stabilization, there's no room to do that currently without cutting other appropriations for different town departments. And so part of my thought process was, do we come up with a proposal and have a discussion with the select board? It doesn't have to be now, but I do think it's a worthy conversation, because I think before we get too far down the road and 62 Elm Street funding is coming out of capital, we have to sort of put a stake in the ground that that's not going to work for us unless there's a conversation around additional funding.
So my take on it is, I think it is a process that we should go through for sure. I don't think that we have to go through it when we're in the middle of a capital cycle.
Yep.
It may be something we do in the off time of year. And I think that a lot's going to come out in the long-term planning that is also going to directionally point to doing this anyways, because we're going to have a better idea on the capital needs, and therefore how to fund the stabilization fund is going to be significantly important. So that's kind of how I feel about it. I don't know if we have the bandwidth to do it during the cycle, especially with some of us on, like Kathy, on a significant committee working hard. I'm on a significant committee with the long-term planning as well. And then we have we know we're going to have a lot of activity to go through in this cycle. So we could table the actual work on it, Katie, but continue to think about it. And I know that you've collected some information from some other towns, and we can continue to do that in the background in preparation for doing this.
Okay.
after
I'm
this
comfortable with
cycle.
that. I think I was a little surprised when the select board raised the fact that that 62 Elm was going to be accommodated out of capital stabilization, you know, less than 6 months after the fact that we used all of our debt roll off and debt service to accommodate town hall. And there's time to plan for it, to your point, Susan, so maybe it's better rolled into that conversation, but I think from where I said it needs to be planful. There needs to be a mechanism sort of build up that account in a way that could be redeployed when needed.
Yeah, totally agree with you. All right.
I mean,
Yeah.
just in terms of the public safety buildings, like, I don't think they would do work on 62 Elm Street until 135 King is done with whatever's going to be done for it. So 62 Elm sounds like it's many years in the future. But I think it's good to plan for it. But it's not like it's going to be a problem next year. It's going to be
No,
a
it's not
problem.
it's not going to be a problem next year.
Yeah.
But I think what I heard from the community was that they wanted the plan for 62 Elm Street to come out in conjunction with 135 King Street and have numbers and a funding source for it identified. And so if we do that, we're sort of committing capital or committing a funding source sooner. I mean, I hear you that the project itself is not going to take place, but I think there's going to be community, they're going to want to know that it's not another debt override.
Yeah.
And by saying it's not another debt override, the default is capital stabilization. So in a weird way, Kathy, I hear you, but I also think that we're going to be backed into a corner in terms of it becomes ours by default. Because
I
I
think
don't,
you're right, Kathy.
Yeah.
but I agree with you, Susan. Like there's a timing tied to long range planning that comes with that.
Yeah. And, we can, between the two of us, when we talk about other topics, we can certainly update each other on what we're finding and do some work on the side to see what other towns have. I know the policies for a lot of towns are available on their websites.
Yeah.
Okay. We next meeting agenda, well, we know we're going to the remote format anyways, right? Except for when we're going to talk
Yep.
about major conversations, and we picked dates for the next couple of meetings, leaving the week of Thanksgiving, meetingless, right?
Yes.
So is there anything else we need to talk about in this particular one, Katie?
The next one on the 10th, what I had was in terms of new information, obviously Kathy, another update from public safety, an update from Susan on long range planning. But in terms of new items, Michelle, I had sort of an update on the 10-year capital plan, because at that point you thought you might have more plans back and be able to do a roll up. So that was one that I had on there. Does that feel okay? Okay.
Yes, it does.
And then
And
I
I
was-
thought we had harbor potentially.
yeah, so and I had putting repurposed articles back on, and then I had 3 departments, Susan, police, library, and harbor. Police is done, so that feels pretty good in terms of like the package, but it's a matter of like scheduling.
I'm sorry, what was the third one, Katie? Police, harbor, and
Library,
library.
there was that one request on the bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I guess my question about harbor, Michelle, is that it's a, if I understand correctly, it's a $400,000 request without a lot of context around it right now.
That'd be
Okay.
correct.
So I don't know, I mean, perhaps bringing it forces the context issue, or maybe there's some liaison work that has to happen in order to get the context. I don't know.
I would recommend that Rob reach out to Lori and work with her on the context.
And then put that on a future agenda?
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you say context, what, I'll need some guidance on that.
So
So-
this plan's been kicked around for, I don't know how many times.
Right.
But
I
think-
can help provide context, Rob. I
Yeah.
can give you the materials that I have to set you up for a conversation with the harbor master.
Great.
I'm just looking at I mean, right now, Rob, all that she's submitted in the OneDrive is a 10-year plan, and it literally has a single line item of $400,000. Like what I mean by context is like literally like, what is it? What's the plan? Like,
Okay.
if you can imagine nothing, anything above nothing is sort of where I think we're at, unfortunately. Yeah, it's $300,000 for a harbor master building is the line item for the next cycle, but that's all the detail that's been provided. And there's a history, to Michelle's point, around what's been proposed in the past and
And we're not even certain that the select board has an appetite to even move that project forward either, so I think we need to find out all the details.
All right, so police, library,
yeah,
and your plan. And updates for
repurposed
police
articles.
long-range planning.
yeah.
Oh, and the, sorry, I left off the appropriations.
Yeah,
repurpose
the
article.
repurpose, yeah, exactly.
That seems like a fair amount to cover.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember seeing any minutes. Do we have any? to review?
No minutes. I got an email from Leontina late this afternoon. Nothing came in. The audio just became available. So I think for the meeting on the 10th, we'll be able to catch up a little bit. So there will
Okay.
be some meetings then, but nothing now.
Okay. All right then. Anything else from anyone?
So
All right then, great. Then let's, is there a motion to adjourn?
I would make a motion to adjourn. Second.
Second the motion.
Okay,
All in favor? Aye.
Chris Peisch, aye.
Right. I'll see everybody in person at town meeting next Monday.
That's great.
yes,
We tend to congregate towards the front, but don't feel obligated. If you don't want to be in the front row, you don't have to.
you get a lot of leg room in the front row.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. Although you are trapped if you ever want to like duck out. So,
That's true too.
choose wisely.
Okay. All right, everyone. Thanks
Awesome.
very much.
Have a
and
good
we'll see
night.
you
Thank
All right,
you.
thanks,
Good
guys.
night.
on Monday.
Bye.
Good night.
Good night.